We so appreciate you guys so very much. We appreciate you. We know you understand the track that we're on.
Yeah, it's
my God,
tough.
it's painful time, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it's definitely well worth it.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, Angie Scott and Barb Carey.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. We hope your 2020 is off to an amazing start. So Barb and I have been extremely busy, and this week is absolutely no exception. We kicked off the new year with the National Professional Anglers Association Conference in Wisconsin Dells, hosting a pro-women's roundtable discussion. From there, we drove to Red Lake in Minnesota for a women's ice fishing outing. And from there, we're flying back down to Nashville and immediately hitting the big Nashville Boat Show. I'll be doing daily seminars from the Hawg Trough, trying to encourage boaters who haven't yet got much into fishing to give it a try by demonstrating a variety of simple methods to get started, keeping in mind the importance of knowing where you're putting your bait in the water column in comparison to where the fish are hanging out. If I'm not 10 feet up in the air giving seminars, I'll be on the floor in the Anderson Marine Space talking to folks about Quest pontoons. I actually bought my first Quest pontoon at that boat show 5 years ago. What a wild and completely life-transforming journey it's been. I mean, who would have thought? The big exciting thing is Barb is coming to Nashville for the first time. It'll be a real quick trip, but action-packed, and I'm excited for her to see my home turf, where it all happens right here on what I've dubbed Living the Dream Studios on Percy Priest Lake. And if it doesn't get any more exciting than that, the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast is doing a live show Saturday at noon from the Hawg Trough. We're going to be interviewing some of the top names in women's fishing as part of this live show. We've got several ladies coming from the Middle Tennessee area who are either current LBAA anglers or have fished it in the past. The LBAA is the Lady Bass Anglers Association. A few of the names coming out include Deanna Laverne from Bradyville, Tennessee, who was the LBAA Classic Co-Angler Champion for 2016 and 2019. We've got Terry Davis, who was the LBAA Co-Angler of the Year in 2019. She's actually traveling all the way from Virginia to be with us. We also have Michelle Norrod from Goodlettsville, Tennessee, who was the 2019 American Fishing Tour Lady Angler of the Year, and she has fished the LBAA a bunch in the past. Terry Sendrick from Nashville, who's also fished with the LBAA and is a pro kayak angler with Hook One Outfitters. Mixing it up a bit, we're also bringing in a lady by the name of Paula Cathy Smith, who you may know from social media or YouTube. She's from Waverly, Tennessee. She caught an 88-pound catfish a year ago that totally went viral. It's an exciting lineup, and we may have some other guests popping in, people that we've met at the boat show with cool, innovative products to showcase or more. So be on the lookout for that episode coming out soon. But if you're able to join us in person, that would mean the world to us to have you there and show your support for our first ever live podcast in this capacity. It's going to be at the Music City Center in downtown Nashville, Tennessee at noon, Saturday, January 11th from the Hawg Trough. Doors to the show open at 10 a.m. and the show goes all day, all the way till 9 o'clock at night. Admittance at the door is only $12 for adults, so we hope to see you there. We're hoping we're going to have a really nice crowd for this show. So, tying in with this big event, we're really excited about this week's special guest. Today, Barb and I are chatting with one of the co-founders of the LBAA, Cheryl Bowden. Cheryl turned pro back in 2008. She's won 2 Lady Bass Classic Championships, one in 2012 on Gunnersville, and another in 2016 on Old Hickory, which is right here just outside of Nashville. I can tell you from experience, Old Hickory is a really tough lake to fish, so Cheryl's definitely earned her stripes. She's also been featured in USA Today, and in 2018, she and the other LBAA co-founder, Secret York, were named to the Wildlife Enthusiast Magazine's Hall of Fame for all the hard work that they've been doing to keep the LBA going for so many years now. Special shout out to podcast listener and supporter Barbara Harris, aka Bassin Gal, on social media for hooking us up with all the ladies that are coming out to our live show and also putting us in contact with Cheryl for this episode. Barbara, thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do for the woman angler and adventurer. All right, everyone, please enjoy. Welcome to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. Today we're really excited because we have one of the co-founders of the LBAA with us today, and we've been wanting to feature some of the ladies from a professional bass tournament association on our show, and the LBAA is where it's at. Cheryl Bowden, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you guys very, very much. It's very exciting to be on here.
So you're down in Texas, and that's where you're from, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your history before we jump into talking about the LBAA. How did you get involved in fishing and interested in fishing professionally?
Well, as far as just the fishing in general, was just growing up in the country. That's just what we did. Dad fished a lot. Mom fished a lot. That was an easy and inexpensive way for us to pass the time. And, you know, I could take off at any time and walk down to the farm ponds around us and stuff and go fishing. And then my dad at the time did a little bit of commercial fishing, so we were always at the lake with him. And then as an adult, I kind of got away from fishing other than just fishing for fun. And then, I can't remember exactly when, but somewhere in the 90s, a friend of mine got together with me and we went on a guided trip. I just happened to be with a gentleman I used to coach his daughter, and kind of got excited about it. And then from there, just kind of went into the local clubs and started moving into fishing, at that time with the WBFA, fished, because I was in the classroom, so I couldn't take off all the time. So I would have to kind of time it around spring breaks or summertime. So fished with that organization as a co-angler, and then slowly progressed. And then when they started with the WBFA, I also fished through the local clubs because we could qualify to fish with them in the summers. Then when the BAS started the Women's Bassmaster Tour, I jumped in as a co-angler. And then in 2008, decided, it's time to move to the boater side and so forth. So fished a year or so with that as on the 2 years on the boater side. And then when that was shut down, then, Secret and I got together and we were just kind of planning a get together, kind of farewell, going away event. And at the meeting, we were sharing all the different options of the people who said they wanted to continue with the women's tour. And the ladies, after we shared everything, they looked at us and said, well, what about you two running a tour for us? Mm. And we kind of looked at one another and we're like, well, she goes, if you're game, I'm game. And I said, well, why not? And so here we are 10 years later and getting ready to celebrate our 10th year anniversary.
That is a major accomplishment.
Well, we knew in the beginning that we saw the growing pains that when you started something really, really big and so forth, that there are going to be extenuating circumstances. And when the numbers started to drop, that organization was like, it's not worth it. We're not going to make the bucks that we want to make. So we knew going in that we wanted to, it'd be nice for us to grow faster, but at the same time, growing slowly, we can overcome some of those growth pains in a more manageable situation. So that's kind of the trek that we've taken, and we're continuing on.
So how many women fish that circuit?
We have 120 members. We typically average around 60 ladies per event. Wow. Somewhere between 50 and 60 ladies. And that's co-anglers and boaters. So 25 to 30 boats per event.
Have you seen the support slowly start to increase since it began back in 2010? I know women's professional bass fishing tournament circuits have had a very difficult time over the years. So it's amazing you've been able to keep it going this long. Is the support starting to come around more, or is it still a major struggle?
Well, support's always going to be one of your challenges, trying to find people that, because they need a return on their investment. It's not like people are just going to throw money out there and go, I don't need my money, just go take it. That's not the attitude. I mean, we want to give them a return on their investment and so forth. So, one of the big things that we have is our way trailer that gets a lot of advertising and so forth, because they get in the pictures that people see it going up and down the highway. We've tried to do a little bit of the Facebook Live and the YouTube stuff. The problem is a lot of the locations that we go to is Wi-Fi. You've got to be able to be on Wi-Fi to be able to do those things. And sometimes it's a challenge just to get a cell phone call and stuff. So it's still something we want to work on doing to get more promotion. One of the things that we started at the very last tournament this last year, we started a digital magazine. And so if you're on our website, you said you were there earlier, if you go to where it says promotions and you drop down, you'll see the first digital magazine that we put out. And that has been, has drawn a lot of interest from different sponsors and so forth, because when you look at their logo, you click on it and it takes you to their website. And so that is something out there on the web. So that's something we're going to continue and do at least 4 issues in 2020. Cool. As part of our 10th anniversary item and so forth. So not only can we get our way trailer sponsors publicity through that, we can get more exposure for sponsors for local events through that particular item, because it's not on social media sites, on our website, and then those folks can link that to their site. So we can do a little bit of cross pollinating. And then we were very fortunate that I guess we were on. What lake were we on this last year? We were on Logan Martin in Alabama, and we got a call from Lee Smith, who is the new owner of Pro Gator Boats in Louisiana. And he was asking us some questions about becoming a title sponsor. And so we are excited that we do have a title sponsor for 2020, and that is Pro Gator Boats out of Benton, Louisiana. So that in itself, it kind of a long story that we are seeing some folks who are noticing us and going, hey, I think we can have a great partnership together. And so, with Lee coming on board with Pro Gator Boats, we're changing up some of our advertising items to include them as they come on as our title sponsor. And, hopefully through him, we can bring on some other entities and so forth. Plus, we always have we have a great group of sponsors that sponsor our ladies that always support us at our event.
Well, that's huge. I mean, and I, hats off to you guys, because I know firsthand how much work that is, and it's like a full-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and I see, I'm sure that, eventually the tournament circuit will see that surge too, but I think across the country, just the surge in women fishing is just blowing up all over the place. Getting them to go from that next step up to competitive tournament angling, I think, is just kind of, you can see it in the horizon. I mean, I think there's going to be, now you're in a good position right now with the timing of things as I see it across the country.
We had a group of ladies that have started some of our federations. So that's kind of our way of branching out. Because one of the things that we struggle with the LBAA is that, women fishing professionally, it is different than men. In the traditional household, which we still have a lot of great traditions, the husbands are able to go off, or the gentlemen are able to go off and hey, I'm going to go hunting for the weekend. Well, it's not a big deal, or they're going to go off on a hunting week because the ladies are there to take care of the families, and so forth. And so, we have the issue that we heard. Well, it's not an issue. It's just one of those, it's just a part of it that ladies traditionally take care of the kids. So it's a little more challenging when the ladies want to take off for a week and go somewhere, because they have to arrange for somebody to take care of the kids. It's not that the husbands can't, but that's just one of those items. You also have the fact that as we have young ladies getting into it, boats are expensive. There's no doubt that, you look at just an entry level boat can be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Mm-hmm. And so, not a lot of families now that it generally requires both the husband and the wife, to work. It's a challenge to be able to have a boat, especially if you've got both husband and wife who love to fish. they both have their own tournament trails. And so it's a little bit of a challenge for them to, they can't afford two boats. So it's a compromise of who gets to take the boat this weekend or this week to go fishing and stuff. Mm-hmm. But going back to that, we have a group of ladies in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi that started one of our first federations last year, the Tri-State Federation. And so they had their first full season in 2019. And then in conversations with them this week, there's another federation that's going to start that's going to include Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. And that's going to start in 2020. And then we've been in conversations with the two chicks in the boat, Lori and Beth, up in Ohio, that they're looking at starting a federation up in the Ohio Valley area. And so it's a way to get ladies involved where there's not the longer travels. They can fish a little more often because it's not, you think about it, where we're going this next year, we're going to Cane River Lake in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Then we're going to Lake Hartwell in Georgia. Then we're going to Lake Pickwick. Then we're going to Lake Truman. That's a lot of travel. And we're typically gone a whole week for that. Mm-hmm. So these ladies starting these federations are a great way to spread the word, get ladies involved, get a taste for it without the overwhelming feeling of fishing a big tour. And I think you're right. I think that will help with the growth of it, because our biggest hurdle overall is people not knowing that we exist.
So these federations, these are just kind of an opportunity that LBAA will support somebody who wants to undertake kind of organizing one of these smaller regional leagues that kind of feed into the LBAA. I just see it here on the LBAA website. If you go to LBAA Federation chapters, there's information there about what kind of some of the parameters are and how someone could go about doing that, because I think that that's a great idea, and I bet you that will kind of take off, because I know there's been some discussion up in the northern part of the country about this fishing that league, but it's so far for anyone that's not in the south to go down there and participate. So that's kind of, I think, really, that's going to be awesome.
Well, we also face the thing that a lot of our younger anglers, they've only been in their jobs just a few years, so they're limited on their vacation time. So people are asking, well, why, as a pro tour, do you only have 4 events? Well, we understand that there are the difficulties. They want to do these things. They want to fish with us, but there's the travel and there's the vacation time. Mm-hmm. And so we reduced down to 4 tournaments so that we could, allow ladies to not have to eat up all that vacation time, because they want to have time with their families too. And then when Wendy Lou and a couple of the ladies came to us and said, hey, we want to look at starting some federations so that we can be feeders for the LBAA and get ladies involved in fishing, get them comfortable with the items of running the boat, fishing with the back of the boat, whatever the case may be. And then, like you said, it's just such a travel. People are like, well, why don't you have tournaments that are further north? Well, we have to have anglers who are there that have boats to be able to support it and stuff. And so we typically go if I think somewhere on our website, maybe it's not on our website, but we have a map kind of showing where all of our members are. And so most of our tournaments are where the majority of our members are. We have to kind of tailor to that, because obviously, we're not huge and so forth. And then we also have to go where the cities are willing to support us, because these cities pay us to come in and fish their areas. Whether it's that or like in Clinton, Missouri, the Bucksaw Resort is actually the one who's sponsoring that event. So I think you're right. I think the federations would be a great way to springboard into that. So one other benefit for the federations is they can qualify 2 anglers to our championship. Our championship is comprised of the top 12 anglers from the Angler of the Year points. Plus, there are a couple of other ways that anglers can qualify for the championship. So, we guarantee cities that will have at least 15 boats in an event when it comes to our championship, because it is our smallest deal, because you have to qualify. Mm-hmm. And so by having these federations, so if, the tri-state continues, if the one that we're talking about, they're to start in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas, they haven't given me the name of it yet, starts in 2020. And then the one in Ohio Valley starts, and that is 6 more anglers that qualify for our championship through whatever points system they decide. And so that plus our anglers, and then those folks then get to come in and fish one event with the ladies who fish the tour all year long, and then they get a taste of it. Gabriela Trevino from Texas is a perfect example. She qualified through the Tri-State Federation for the championship next year, and she is chomping at the bit to fish every one of them that she possibly can this next year. And that's it gets them all fired up about it. And they realize, hey, I can do this, because that's another thing that we face is ladies going, I just don't know if I can do this or not. I don't know if I have the skill level. And, they'd be surprised once they get out there that it's also a place for them to grow.
So if somebody starts one of these federation chapters, is there a minimum amount of tournaments that they have to hold, or can they just have one and that be a qualifier?
That we kind of leave that up to them and so forth. Having just one event, that's almost like throwing darts. So we would like for them to have more than one tournament, but there's nothing that says it has to have 3 states. There's nothing that says it has to be a big area. We've still got some of the old Dallas Bassingales, not Dallas Bassingales, but the old Bassingales groups that are still fishing. I know there's still the one in Missouri that still fishes. There's one, I think, that's around Lake Dardanelle. They may still have the Georgia Peaches that goes over in Georgia, and I know that the Dallas Bassingales still exist. So there's nothing wrong with those local clubs deciding they want to be a federation chapter. So it doesn't have to be multi-state, even though that has kind of been the trend of what's been going on so far with the 2 federations plus the third potential one. It can be something that's just within your area. So we kind of leave it up to those who want to do the federations, that they can make it as large or as small as they want to. It just kind of depends on where the lakes are and the anglers are that want to take part.
Yeah, I think the future is bright. I think that's a great plan and a great way to grow the organization. That's pretty exciting.
So, Barb, does that mean you're going to try to get one started up in the Wisconsin area?
You know what?
No.
But maybe I'll find someone that wants to do that.
There you go.
My plate is so full. I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, I know that.
So,
but I say I have the furthest up north I've ever fished is in Iowa, and so forth. And that was before I had a clue of what was going on.
Yeah, world-class fishing up here. There's some, awesome fisheries up here, up in the Great Lakes, and it's really unbelievable. One thing I learned as a tournament angler, and you said that some people just, don't have the confidence or don't think they, have the skill level. But in my opinion, tournament angling is like taking a college course in fishing, because you got to do your homework, you got to do all this practice, and, you're kind of teaching yourself in learning and just sucking in as much information as you can. And then the tournament is the test. And it's a great way to improve your skills. You don't necessarily have to join, thinking you're going to clean house or win the whole thing, but that's how you get better, by doing it.
Yes. Well, and I think we have a wonderful group of ladies that, I've learned something from every co-angler that I fish with. So it's not just about the co-angler learning. It's not, as a boater, I want my co-angler to do well. And so forth. I've been out there, like I said, I've done my homework. I've gone out and I've done all the multiple days of practice and so forth. And so forth. And I want my co-angler to do well. But ultimately, I'm going to be on fish. She just has to figure out how, using her skills, she can catch fish. And then trying to learn as she goes along of, okay, what I know is not working. What other things do I try? I had a young lady fishing with me on Toledo Bend this last year. She had never fished a Carolina rig. And we happened to go across one of those humps, and there were fish stacked on it. And I thought, well, I don't know what kind of fish they are, but we're about to find out. So we anchored up and started casting, and about her third cast, she caught a fish on a Carolina rig. And she's like, well, I actually can do this. So it's about developing those skills. So anybody who's starting, like I say, you do your homework, you grow every time, and the tournament is actually the test, but it's also that next learning experience. So
let's talk about the co-angler side of it a little bit. So what if somebody wanted to just experience that, to kind of go there and get a taste of it? What does it take to be a co-angler?
Basically it's, one, obviously you have to be a member of the LBAA, unless you're in one of the tri-states, but even those require you to be an LBAA member. But you sign up for an event, you bring your equipment and you get in the back of the boat and you get ready to fish. You know, that sounds awfully simple, and it's nerve-wracking. Because if you've ever fished a tournament and so forth, to be in the back of a boat, you're looking at that person going, I don't know if I have the skill to do this. But until you do it, you just don't know. You know, of course, we always want our first-time co-anglers, all co-anglers do well. We want our first-timers especially. We want them to have a great event. We want them to do really, really well because then they get the bug. But just to do it, you know, you need at least one rod. You need a selection of baits. You need your life jacket. You need any equipment that you might need for staying warm, staying dry, those kinds of items, safety equipment, and just the desire to go out and just learn and have fun.
So do they get to pre-fish too, or is it pretty much just the tournament itself?
Well, it just depends. I mean, what we find with some of our co-anglers is they would love to fish more, but they don't have the vacation time. So they're only able to come in and fish the tournament. It depends if they make connections with some of the boaters and say, hey, do you have an open seat? You know, can I go out and practice with you? You know, we do have some of our co-anglers that they're there the whole time and so forth. And people ask the question, why are they not in a boat? Well, one, the expense of the boat, and they may not have a boat. They have the time to fish, but they don't have a boat because that's just not something that's in their budget. Or, you know, they don't have a place, something to tow it with. So it's not just about having a boat. You have to have a tow vehicle with that. But on the co-angler side, it's having the nerve to just jump in there and say, I want to experience this.
Quick thing about the co-angler maybe not having a boat or a trailer. I know I fish in a local club here called Team Nashville Bassmasters, and it's a bunch of guys. I'm the only female in the club, and I'm a co-angler because at least for now, I fish out of a pontoon. And so I've been wanting to do some tournaments as a boater with the pontoon, actually, because I think that would be really fun. It just hasn't happened quite yet. But my question is, one of the most intimidating things that I face, because I don't have a boat and a trailer that I use on a regular basis, is as a co-angler, I'm usually expected to back the trailer down or load and unload the boat, one or the other. Is that something that is kind of the case for a co-angler in the LBAA events as well?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, it's nice when that happens because it does make it a little easier on the boater. But that's not required. You don't have to be able to back the boat. You don't have to be able to load or launch the boat. You know, we are very fortunate that we have we call them our bass caddies. We have a superb group of individuals who follow the tour, husbands, boyfriends, friends, and people who are just supporters. And oftentimes when it comes to the tournament day, the ladies are in the boats. The folks back them in, they bump them, they go, and these guys and sometimes ladies go and they park their boats and trailers for them. When the ladies come in, somebody backs their boat and trailer down, they load them up, and then from there the ladies take care of the rest.
Nice.
You know, so it's not a requirement. It helps, yes, it does help because it's a time saver, and so forth. But it's not a requirement. We don't expect our co-anglers to come in knowing how to do anything. It is a benefit if a young lady or a lady knows how to drive the boat, because heaven forbid that there's some kind of an illness on the water. It would be nice for me to know that my co-angler can get me back to the shore, and so forth. But it's not a requirement. But that's also part of why we try to grow and develop our co-anglers. In our rules, it says that during practice, a co-angler can run the front of the boat and they can drive the boat. So if I know that a lady wants to learn how to drive the boat, wants to learn how to operate the boat from the front, then during practice, if they're with me, then I may give them the opportunity to drive the boat. Elisa Johnson, our Lady Bass Classic champion, she was one of our rookies this year. You know, she was co-angler of the year for a couple of years. And so she was like, Cheryl, I don't know, before she decided to get a boat, she goes, I don't know how to load and unload a boat. So she and I went to Lake Athens, and we got the trailer set at the optimum height, and she backed my boat off, and she loaded it. And she did that like 10 or 15 times. And she would go make a little circle around the cove and come back, put the boat on the trailer, and back it off. You know, it was a calm day, but she already knew how to back the trailer in. She just wasn't sure about launching and loading the boat. And so the first couple of times I was in the boat with her and talked her through it. And then I got off the boat and I went up on the shore, was talking to people up at the marina so that she could have time alone to practice loading and unloading that boat to get her confidence up. And so you have folks in your areas that are willing to help you out with that. We want ladies to get excited about fishing. We want to help grow them in their abilities and skills. So, they may not know now, but at some point, what's wrong with me taking them out into the parking lot and saying, we're going to learn how to back the boat without just in the middle of a parking lot that's wide open, so that we can talk them through the process so they can develop some of those skills. I did that with a lady many years ago at the Dallas Bass and Gals. She's like, Cheryl, I need to learn how to back a boat. I want to get a boat. I want to go as a boater. And we got in a parking lot, and we just let her practice backing it up, and so that she could begin to develop that skill. There was no water around. There was no ramp. It was just, how do you get the boat to go in a straight line? How do you get the boat to turn? How do you make it turn left? How do you make it turn right? And I'm not alone in that. There are other anglers on the tour who've done that with ladies who want to learn how to do those things. So we believe in building people up and helping them. In some cases, it's easier to do than others.
Can Angie take her pontoon and enter a tournament with a pontoon boat? Are there boat requirements?
Well, the boat, she has to have an operating live well. Is the primary item on that. So as long as it's fishable for all anglers that can be on, with the two anglers that would be on the boat, we still have to limit her to just her being the boater and the other one being a co-angler. But as long as, she's got a live well that operates and so forth, and she's got a means of fishing, then I'd have to look at it and see. We have a maximum horsepower, and the boat has to be at least, I believe, I have to look at the rules, but I believe it's got to be at least 16 feet long.
Yeah, they're coming out with these fishing pontoons now that's what they're all set up for. It's not your grandpa's pontoon, and
there's no pontoon that needs to have 300 horsepower motors on the back. So I mean that would be a better question for our tournament director. I have to look at our rules. I don't see why we couldn't. I mean, we've got folks who fish in the old traditional flat bottom boats that have the motor on the back that's a stick steer, but they have a live well. But there needs to be a live well for both the co-angler and the pro. Or a way to divide it up to keep your fish separate.
I wanted to talk real quick about, you mentioned some of the younger ladies that have careers and don't have much time off. And are you seeing a lot more younger people interested in joining LBAA? I know there's been a growth in the high school fishing teams and college fishing teams, and just wondering if you're seeing a trend towards that.
I don't know that we see a trend towards that yet. I know that that's coming. Again, one of the biggest deals that we face is that a lot of ladies they don't have the confidence. We are seeing, again, I love seeing all these kids in the high school and the colleges and so forth take part. I would love to see more young ladies in the colleges. We actually offered for 3 or 4 years, we offered that any of the young ladies in the collegiate venues could qualify through whatever means to fish our championship. And we got zero response from the colleges of interest. Because to me that was a great way. To me it was a great way, but it was again getting in touch with who's responsible for those college teams. At that time the colleges were basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't official as far as official events with the colleges. They were clubs. And so finding out who the contact person is for each one of those college clubs, we would find them, we would contact them on Facebook, and we would get zero response. And so, that to me, that's still an option that we could add into our rules that would allow them to qualify for our championship. So let's say that they fished in their collegiate event. They could determine how those anglers qualify. Now, we'd have to make a few little adjustments from what we've done with the federations, because we require the federations to have at least some semblance of our rules for their events. And the reason for that being is that it's challenging enough to come fish the championship with them trying to figure out which set of rules am I trying to follow. So we ask them to have at least some mirror image of our rules so that it reduces the chance of someone. I mean, imagine if you come and fish our event and you get disqualified because you followed your federation rules and not the LBAA rules. Because you made a mistake on that. And so we're, trying to reduce some of those errors because we want it to be a positive event. We want it to be a positive thing. They get to come and fish our championship. So we would love to find out who those collegiate, going to the other part, find out who those collegiate sponsors are, those collegiate contacts, and say, hey, we're willing to open this back up so that your ladies can qualify for our championship through, whatever means we can all come to an agreement on. Mm-hmm. But it's just finding who those folks are, because Barb, I think you mentioned earlier, it's a full-time job already. much, to do a lot of these things and so forth. And, all Secret and I both have our own full-time jobs that we do on top of this. So any help that we can have on that is just amazing.
Yeah, there's got to be a way. I think that things are changing. I think it's kind of evolving from the club format to more an official sanctioned sport. I know the high schools are too. I mean, like up here in the north, the high school teams, even the ice fishing teams, are sanctioned as like a real high school sport, like football and basketball.
Right. Yes.
So that's come a long way, and I think the colleges are doing that too. And what we're seeing up here is a lot of those high school teams have more females than males on them. So
I would love to see that trend down here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Angie and I talk about that a lot, like what she sees in the South as far as just being out on the lake and what I'm seeing up in the North. And I think there's a lot more women fishing as independent anglers that I run into than what Angie runs into. And I found that to be an interesting phenomenon.
Well, I think part of it, too, is you mentioned ice fishing. There's still a great deal of equipment and skill required in ice fishing, because you got to know when you can be out there, when to put your huts and stuff out, if you're going to use a hut, or where to drill the holes, and a lot of other things that I don't have a clue about. But it's something you can do independently. You don't have to have a boat, and so forth. So, and it's something that, a dad can easily take the daughter out, and they can put up a fishing hut, and they can drill the hole, and they can ice fish and have that time together. You see some of the girls do a little bit of that as far as in the boats with their dads, but you do see more of the boys doing it, because dads don't have any problem with, hey, dad's got to go off to work in the summer. He dumps the son in the water with the boat and comes back and picks him up after work. A lot of dads are not comfortable with doing that with their daughters for a lot of different reasons. Mm-hmm. So, it's that sadly, that's just part of our society now, that you think about it, and people don't tend to think twice about coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take my kid out to the lake as long as he's a boy." But if it's a young lady, then there's the deal of, well, hey, how does she go to the bathroom? That becomes the biggest thing. And then you have, for a lot of the ladies fishing tournaments, that becomes a question of how on earth do we do this? Husbands will say, hey, I'll fish, but then when they find out they draw a woman, then they're like, whoa, my wife would not go for that at all. We run into that.
I think it's a major cultural thing. Like, I grew up in Minnesota, so I've seen it firsthand. It's a family thing up there. It's the mom, dad, kids, son, daughter go out fishing. It's just part of the culture, because there's so many opportunities to fish, so many lakes, and down here it's more man-made reservoirs. They're kind of more few and far between. It's just not part of the culture. And so I think young girls growing up, not having that be part of their family, growing up, that's, I think, one of the biggest reasons why there's such a difference between seeing independent women up north out fishing and from what I see around here, like in Nashville.
Right. And so, and it is just a part of it sometimes. And that's one of those deals that every area has its own unique configurations, we'll call it. Like I say, it is a part of the world, and we're going to work through some of those things. And it is a cultural piece.
Yeah, we appreciate talking to you, and it's got my wheels spinning. Maybe we'll kind of spur some interest up here in the northern part of the country to get a few gals to give that a try.
Well, and you think about it, if you guys were to be able to get some federations started in your areas, then it allows for the ladies to be able to fish locally and only have that one big trip. And we do try to have our championship kind of in a central location. It's not always that way, but, that does help when people have to travel, that everybody's having to travel kind of equal distance, which is also part of a goal of when we do our tournaments. We try to make it where we know that some of our folks who are on the East Coast, they only have to, make one long trip west. And then our folks who are on the, more the Texas, Louisiana area only have to make one long drive, out to the east, talking about super long drives. So, we do what we can. Well, guys, thank you so very much for your support. Looking forward to hearing about, the podcast you guys are going to do with the ladies in Nashville coming up in January and stuff and so forth. So, and thank you for all you do. And thank you for working with Barbara Harris and so forth to help promote the tour. And let's just get more ladies involved in fishing.
Yeah, let's do it. Barbara's been a great help for us with the podcast and promoting what we're doing as well. So I'm really glad that she connected us all and we were able to have you on the show, talk about the Lady Bass Anglers Association, and the website is ladybassanglers.com. So we encourage all our listeners to go check that out, spread the word, and maybe think about starting their own federation in their area.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much once again for listening to this episode. We hope you really enjoyed it. Really, truly think about starting a federation in your area. That would be awesome. Or if you know somebody who would be a really good fit to start something like that, here you go. Here's your opportunity. Don't wait on it. Just do it. That's one thing I've learned in my life thus far. You've got to take advantage of opportunities when they're in front of you. So, again, hope you guys can come out to our live show this Saturday, January 11th at noon, Music City Center in Nashville, Tennessee. If you're not able to make it, stay tuned because we're going to, of course, be putting that episode out on a future episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast soon. So, thanks again, everybody, for all your support of this show, and we'll see you soon.